Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Duncan from the Workforce Alliance of South Central Kansas. I too serve on the executive board for the Manufacturers Association and have since 2014. I'm just going to give you a very quick overview because I know many of you probably work with the Workforce Center, and I want to just highlight some of the things that we're doing with the partners here at the table. And then I have some colleagues in the audience, and we're happy to follow up with any of you after this meeting. The Workforce Alliance is the local workforce development board for the Wichita region for the U.S. Department of Labor. We operate 4 workforce centers. This on the screen is our location in Wichita at 21st and Amadon. And then we have facilities also in El Dorado, Wellington, and Arc City. And we're part of a national network, again, through the U.S. Department of Labor to connect job seekers and employers. So we really serve 2 groups of people. We also have access points with 10 community partners that are a kiosk or one single computer at an access point. This is a map of the workforce regions across the state of Kansas. Again, there's 27 facilities across the state, and we serve that purple region there in the middle, just so you're aware. We're part of a national system, so you may, if you have locations in other states, maybe called the America Job Center or Workforce Centers, Job Service Centers. There's about 550 organizations like us nationwide. Primarily, we work in sectors, and locally manufacturing has been a key focus for us since about 2008. And the 2 things I want to speak to you about today are our youth employment project and a current grant we have called the One Workforce Program. So the Youth Employment Project is an initiative to connect young adults to their first job. We really try to focus on that 16 to 19-year-old age group. We've been serving youth through the Youth Employment Program since 2009, but really refocused our program in 2016 with a focus on high school internships. And so I want to highlight today Manufacturing Interview Day. We've partnered with several local manufacturers to have internships for high school students. This summer, we're anticipating 150 slots available, and you can see here the interview day will be held on April 9th. Textron, Spirit, and Cox Machine are participating, and also is Balco. They were added late, but they will be there. And we're interviewing students on the spot, again, just 16 to 19-year-olds for a summer internship. So it's a part-time experience, and we can give you more information if you're interested. We are in 27 high schools promoting these programs and have a great relationship with people throughout the region. The second program I want to talk about is the One Workforce Grant. In addition to serving as the Workforce Development Board, we also go after competitive workforce grants, and so we partnered with Wichita State and WSU Tech, as well as many manufacturers and the WMA last year to apply for this, and we're one of 19 people selected nationwide. We're trying to serve 900 individuals who are either unemployed or underemployed to move into careers in advanced manufacturing or information technology. And we know that the way many of your companies are operating, there's going to be crossover with technology, automation, and robotics in your facilities. Faith Martin, my colleague here in the front row, is the project director, so if you're interested in speaking to her after this about how you can utilize the funds, really there's a couple of areas: employer-led training or classroom training. With employer-led training, we can assist you hire new individuals or upskill your current workforce, and that's at $6,000 available per person as you do that training. And then we also have a second program that provides scholarships through classroom training, both for short-term programs here at WSU Tech or what we call midterm training options, which would be at Wichita State. We can reimburse direct tuition up to $6,000 here at WSU Tech and up to $13,000 for programs at Wichita State. So again, we can speak to you about how you can utilize those funds, and both Cheryl and Patty can talk about how their companies have partnered with us to take advantage of these grants. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at the end of the event.
My name's Kelly Bielafeld. I'm the Executive Director of College and Career Readiness at Wichita Public Schools. So as they're getting me started there, if you don't know, in the region, Wichita Public Schools has 8 comprehensive high schools. We have about 12,000 high school students, about 47,000 total students, largest district in the state, and the largest source of employees in Sedgwick County. So more employees come from Wichita Public Schools than any other educational institution in the area. So I'm going to try to share about two different things specific to manufacturing that I think might be pertinent to you guys. But like Amanda, I'll be around afterwards to answer any questions or if you want to engage. One is the current status of student interest in manufacturing. Students, have diverse views of their future, and so that's at times a hard thing to capture, but I want to hit on that. And then I want to talk second about the engagement, excitement, and education as far as it goes, as far as it relates to manufacturing. So first off, this is a statewide thing. Every student in the state of Kansas is required to have an individualized plan of study. So you might have heard of this before if you have kids in school. A lot of us use a program called Zello. But essentially, starting in 6th grade, students will research careers, do interest inventories. What am I good at? What do I like? What do these jobs pay? What do they do? That sort of thing. As they go through this, they save different careers that they might be interested in. So one of the pieces of data that I wanted to share with you is this is current data as of this week, and I know the numbers at the bottom are small, but the 6th grade number is about 900. So about 900 kids in our school district that are in 6th grade marked one of the manufacturing careers that they would be interested in. Because one of the things we all try to do and WMA tries to do is to engage and get kids excited about the future of manufacturing, and let's go build things, and let's build airplanes, and let's go to WSU Tech, and we do summer camps and classroom speakers and all sorts of things around that. So you'll see a pretty big spike there in 8th grade, and then it kind of goes down in 10th and 12th, but stays relatively high. So that gives you a sense of kind of where we're at as far as getting kids excited and what happens between 6th and 8th grade that locks them in or gets them more excited about manufacturing. Could be some of the summer camps that we do, could be some of the classes they get into in the middle school level that have to do with using their hands, building things, flight, and that sort of thing. So this is the same data but in a different way. So these are the different careers because there are career clusters, but we broadened it out a little bit. So when we pulled all the careers for manufacturing, these are the things. So this is total for the district. So 751 students had saved aerospace engineering as a career. And they can save multiple careers, so they don't have to just pick one, but they can save anything that they're interested in. Drafter had 52, avionics tech 105, iron worker 90, machinist 65. So this is one way that we can know if we're being effective with some of the things that we're trying to do to promote and excite and get kids into the field of manufacturing. We know it's a valuable, important pipeline for our community. We know that everyone from the hundreds of workers that Spirit's going to be hiring to the 2 or 3 that some of you guys might need, all of those matter, and if we can get them engaged and excited about the field, then they're more likely to stay in it. So on the next one, talking about engagement and excitement. So I said some of these things. What do we do to engage and excite kids about manufacturing? I mentioned a few of these already. Summer camps. We work with the Workforce Center for something called Camp Hype, which is a week-long camp that's focused on a certain industry. And we have a manufacturing aviation camp, week of activities that revolve around that. Summer internships, Amanda already mentioned that. Industry tours. We love to, a lot of our teachers like to be able to take our kids out and see what the real world looks like. What are the machines that they're using? What are the safety protocols, that we're trying to get kids to follow in our classrooms? And then, oh yeah, they actually have to follow these same things on the floor of a shop too. Classroom speakers, and then work-based learning opportunities. So those are just kind of a scattershot of different things that we do to engage and excite. And then specifically talking about education. So, we have 27 different career pathways in our high schools across Wichita. Some schools have some of those. Some schools just have, some of those are at a few. We have welding at 3 different high schools. We have CNC lathes and mills at Northwest High School. We have all sorts of opportunities that, most of us would say, wow, they didn't have that when I was a kid. We hear that a lot when people tour our facilities. But one of the new things, the Future Ready Center, you heard Amanda mention it as the location for the manufacturing interview day. Scott's going to talk about it more too. But the location of that facility is right east of North High School. There used to be a Dillon's there. It's been vacant for about 20 years. The district has owned it that whole time, and we've just, in the last 3 years, remodeled it, and we're creating a facility that is going to be the state-of-the-art, nothing else like it in the nation, right, Scott? But all centered on advanced manufacturing. We hope to have a vision for this that gets our juniors and seniors excited and skilled in order to continue on at WSU Tech, go straight into industry, whatever they'd like to do. It's open to every student in the district, so we bus in juniors and seniors from all over the district for this. This year we have aviation systems, sheet metal, and composites classes at that facility, along with the flying challenge. You could see the mayor there, hopefully not breaking an airplane. That is an actual airplane that we're building. Maze has a similar program if you're not familiar with it, but we have a plane build where students actually assemble an aircraft that's sold and certified and going to be flown someday. Next year we continue to expand into advanced manufacturing, aviation, or automation, robotics, assembly tooling, advanced machining, and some of those things. And then our vision, eventually for this facility too, because it is a big open, it's just like take all the shelves out of a Dillon's, imagine what that would look like, is as we have all these components of the different types of manufacturing that we're teaching the kids, we will also have an engagement component for elementary and middle school kids that they can tour the facility and see not only the classes they could take at WPS as a junior or senior, but then the job that they could do when they get those skills. So a hands-on component for them actually doing some things, like we see in the picture here, along with sponsorship opportunities, work-based learning connections, all of those sorts of things. So it's in, this is year 2 of, probably 5 in a planning stage. And I think Scott's going to talk more about kind of where that's headed and how that's going. But again, if you have any questions or other data or anything else you'd like to touch base with me on, you can see me after the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, hat number 2. So, again, Scott Lucas, Vice President of Aviation Manufacturing and Institutional Effectiveness here at WSU Tech. And I get the benefit of talking about some cool approaches that we're doing in manufacturing today and tomorrow, of really what our role is to help ultimately you guys in the workforce. I don't get to talk about certain programs because you get to see them. So that's the cool thing. I can talk about what all the other cool stuff that we're doing in the future. So, really one of the big emphasis that we're doing here at the college right now is looking at flexible programming and applied learning. And so what does that really mean? Our biggest push is in the Shocker Career Accelerator. So we are trying to provide opportunities for students to get on the job, ultimately day one, that they are going to school. So they're in college, but they're on the job at the same time. So it's more or less kind of an apprenticeship model, but as an employer, you have the opportunity to have them at the job site. You don't necessarily have to pay them because they work through a model where they are employed through WSU or through a different entity, and they get to go to school here. The NIAR Works is the model that we started with, and if you didn't know, that there's a repair facility that's located on Oliver across the road from Spirit, where they are repairing airplanes. And so those students that are there, that are also employees, they are employed by WSU. They are students here 2 days a week. They go to work there 3 days a week. And this is a program where if they stay in it, the employer pays for their tuition. They get paid while they're in here. They have to stay in the program for 3 years. So ultimately, they're getting paid, their school is getting paid, but they have to guarantee that they stay on, they sign a contract to stay on during that time period. So it's looking at models like that. So we call them also earn and learns. So where can I set up a student in a program and they go to school for 2 days a week and then go work for you 3 days a week? So we've set up programs that have that specific model. So our fast track welding program is on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they go to work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, I also have a fast track welding on Thursday, Friday, so they go to work for you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What we have found is if we can do this, they learn so much faster. They're a better worker for you because they anticipate what your expectations are. And so we can be flexible with our programming and still get them better hands-on experiences. True apprenticeships, so we're working on what we can do with registered apprenticeships and building that out and working with workforce and the Kansas Department of Labor to build those out. And then continuing to explore how can we provide better training options for you in the sector as far as incumbent and getting your workers up to speed on customized training, if it's 1 day or 1 week or what that looks like, of what options can we get them up to speed on. The next one would be just the programs that we have here. So we have updated existing programs to what the current standards are in business and industry. That is something that we pride ourselves on here at WSU Tech, is we are always trying to keep our pulse on what it is that you need in industry. So we invite folks like this and some of you out in the audience to be on our industry advisory teams to make sure that we know exactly what your expectations are. If our product, our students aren't matching what your needs are, then we want to know, because we want to fix that and make sure that we're matching what those industry expectations are. So we also are looking at new programs and initiatives. The world is changing, so with regards to what those industry jobs are looking for. And so the Future Ready Center is exactly that model. So Kelly came to me and said, you know, we have this facility and we're looking at what to put in there. And so as we started to kind of dig around and look, at the same time, talking to employers like Cox Machine and like JR Custom Metal, they said, you know, we really need just kind of entry-level workers at times. What do you have? Well, I don't do that. I do welders, and I do machinists, and I do entry-level aviation, but I don't do entry-level non-aviation. So we started talking about, well, what would that look like if we could produce someone that is just an entry-level manufacturer worker? So they would need to know how to work on, you know, just basic assembly. So safety, blueprint, you know, those types of basic skills, foundational skills. Those are things that we know we can teach. There's really good products out there to help us, really good curriculum out there to help us, hand tools, power tools. And then take that to the next level of, all right, well, they need to learn how to use press brakes and lasers and water jets and the basics of CNC operations and the basics of things like SolidWorks and just a little bit of design. So we built this program that kind of leads a student up and stair steps a student in this manufacturing technology program. And Future Ready Center was kind of the perfect place where we could put that, because it's an exploratory still feel at a high school, but it is definitely a career path. And so as we were developing this, we were coming out still, I know we're not quite out, but we were coming out of the big hole of the pandemic, and we were getting the press conferences that the governor came down for Air Excel. And every time I drove by Johnson Controls, they had the banner flapping of, you know, we need help. And so that's where Kelly was like, we have to do something about this. And so we really felt like that. At the same time, we were like, well, we have to do more than that. And so we're continuing to look at, well, you know, quality assurance, metrology. Those are jobs that we know are out there. We don't really train for those. We have courses for those, but trying to provide access for those. We also have to continue to look at jobs for the future. For us, it's things like rapid prototyping, looking at what 3D printing, additive manufacturing, metals, polymers, resin, that piece, microelectronics, digital fabrication, photonics, lasers. those are pieces that this is the great thing about the tour, you'll get to see some of this at NIR on the R&D side, and ultimately that trickles down and ultimately will live at the technician level. So we get to see it at NIR, and then 6-8 years later, it comes down to us that, hey, now we have to get to train technicians for it. So great piece of what NCAT really serves the community. Badging is another new one for us. Badging exists at WSU. It exists in a different forms, but we really feel like it's a way that we can help HR managers and other folks provide credentialing that doesn't really exist right now, that we can do it on the 4-credit side, on the non-credit side, and really skill-based and base it off of specific certifications and build that up in a very structured way that still meets the expectations of companies. And then certifications, every time we build a program, we're always looking at what those industry certifications, credentials, third-party credentials look like, and how can we tie those in. So there's this automation wave. So I talked about the basic manufacturing technology. So as we were building that out, we had to do, every time I send something to Topeka as a public institution, we have to look at all the data behind that. And so the number one job in Wichita right now in our field is, anyone have a guess? What's the number one job need? Anyone else? Actually, the number one job need right now is CDL drivers. I know that's kind of a trick question. That's the number one need across the country, too. And the average age of CDL drivers is somewhere in the neighborhood of 58, 59 years old. It's kind of scary. But the number two job need in our region is industrial mechanics, industrial maintenance. And ultimately, we have that program. We've had that program for a long time. Right now, I have 6 essentially free agent students. The job need right now, those 6 students could walk out with their complete skills and have $50,000 jobs tomorrow. And there would still be 100 job openings in our region. So we have to continue to look at what can we do to build the pipeline, work with Kelly, work with Amanda, and build this pipeline industrial automation, because automation and controls is not going away. It's getting bigger and bigger in your factories and your plants. And the things that the bullets listed underneath there, they're growing too. So thinking like smart manufacturing, fabrication within that, how do all these pieces and parts talk to each other, the robotics aspect of how all this ties in, whether it's machine tending, palletizing, the logistics that happen in robotics, so automated machine robotics that just move your parts from one to another on 4 wheels, those types of robotics. As well as what are the cyber network implications of having all of these pieces and parts being automated together. Those are things we have to consider. And then since it all lives in the cloud, you have data and AI and machine learning, all these different aspects of automation. And I'm here to tell you, there's not enough engineers in the world to take care of this. It will live at the technician level eventually. And it really has not necessarily hit Wichita, but if you go to other manufacturing regions, if you go to your automotive regions, this is huge. And technician level is exactly where it's at. So if you go to some of the areas in Tennessee and Indiana and Ohio, they have 300 and 400 technicians in these specific fields at institutions like mine. So we have to rethink our workforce, and this is a big one that we spend a lot of time with at the college. We can't just open our doors and the students will come. So these are items that we really have to consider. And one of those is our population is shrinking. Our population is changing, and they do not look the same as what they looked like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and definitely 20 years ago. Many of them look different, and they speak a different language. And those are things that we have to adjust to and recruit and be okay with and get excited about. So one of the things that I hope WMA starts to work on and grows around is working as we develop the pipeline of within the community and working with community groups to look at how we do better jobs of recruiting within the community and looking at students of color and looking at non-traditional gender roles and different ways that we can recruit out of those areas into the workforce. Because if not, we're gonna be in trouble. Because we're in trouble right now. We're really gonna be in trouble in the future if we don't start looking at alternative ways to do this. Flexible schedules. So most of us probably had to get on Zoom at some point, right? Most of us stayed home at some point, right? So people got used to that. A lot of people stayed home and a lot of people quit their jobs and stayed home. We have to think about flexible schedules and how we can make that work. That's really hard in a plant, right? So we have to consider how we can have better flexible schedules. On the educational side, we have to create technological options for teaching. So augmented reality, virtual reality, using simulation to do some of this. You're gonna see and hear some of that today of what we've been doing to do that. And then bullet number 4, and we've been doing this for a while at WSU Tech, but we have to teach employability skills, and we have to teach those to everyone. When I say employability skills, work ethics. Everyone has to learn work ethics. At some point in time, we didn't teach those. We have to teach those now. We reinforce those to every single student that comes through those doors. We use a program here that's was developed in conjunction with Mike Rowe. We feel really positive about what that is. It does come with a certification, but ultimately, regardless if it's Mike Rowe's program or some other program, we, on our side of things, we have to do that because ultimately we understand that that's the expectation of you all as employers. So that it's just what it is, right? So bottom line is I can't do it alone. We kind of used to, but not anymore. So everyone on this panel and all of you, we have to work together to do this. So we have to leverage the pipeline. So on the dual credit side is working with high schools. The Future Ready Center is a prime example of that. So beginning in August, every student that goes through there will start with a core. That core will just be understanding manufacturing. That's what the core will start with. It will start with safety. It will start with understanding blueprints, hand tools, power tools. They'll get certifications in precision measuring, torque, multimeter, safety. They'll walk away with their OSHA 10. That's the core. So all students will walk away with that. Then they go into whatever their specialty is. So whether it's aviation, so they'll go in sheet metal, composites, basic manufacturing that we talked about, or advanced manufacturing. So there is an advanced manufacturing pathway. It will get them to start to understand electrical, hydraulics, PLCs. We'll get into some of the logistics pieces, certified production, and then ultimately into a little bit of robotics using collaborative robots. So those are the 3 pathways that are at the Future Ready Center. Fingers crossed. We applied for a city grant, so that's kind of what we're waiting for. Community partners, we can't do it without workforce and other great community partners, WMA. Those are the things, and then ultimately working with our industry partners.
Hi, everybody. I am Cheryl Childers. I am the Human Resource Manager at Cox Machine. I think pretty much everyone in this room knows our organization, but one of the questions that I've been asked by a few of you in the room was, are you seeing this great resignation that keeps being talked about on the news? You know, great resignations happening everywhere. And what we're actually experiencing isn't the great resignation, it's the talent shortage. And I know that there's a lot of us in the room that are experiencing that as well. And so when we have been looking at the talent shortage, really it's been going on for a number of years. It's just getting worse, it seems like. We're during, it's unprecedented times. How many times have you heard that, right? And so we've had to be creative. One of the things that we're doing a lot of right now is we're bringing more robotics into our facility. We're trying to do a number of different things, thinking about the talent that is in the area, also talent that's outside the area, and how do we work with our partners to help us get to where we need to be from a manufacturing side. We still need to be getting parts out the door. We still are seeing an increase in business, and we need to be hiring, and we need to be doing all of these things. But how do we do that right now, knowing that we're not seeing the number of students come out of the programs? We're not seeing all of these applications just hitting our inbox every single day. So when I was thinking about this presentation, I didn't put a bunch of slides together or anything like that, because there were two words that came to mind: partnership and collaboration. Partnership and collaboration are really what all of this is about. It's about all of us in this room working together as manufacturers, but it's also working and collaborating with everyone that I'm sitting at the table with. Amanda and I had a conversation 6 years ago about the fact that we were needing to hire. We weren't seeing what we were needing. How could she and her team help us do that? So we have revamped every single training program that we have. We have been participating on boards with USC 259, with WSU Tech, all of those things to try to figure out what can we do as an organization to meet the needs of the community. And by the community, I am meaning maybe the underemployed in the area. Maybe it's students that are coming out of USC 259. I've had multiple conversations with Megan here at WSU Tech about, okay, this is what we're seeing from the students that are coming to us. How can we make adjustments? How can we be looking at, you know what, maybe we need to add some extracurricular or extra curriculum about sexual harassment, or about why it's really important to come to work on time. Things like that tend to drive some of us in the room a little bit batty. But they listened to that feedback and they've worked with us. And that's why that partnership and that collaboration and that really understanding what it is that each of the people at this table, everyone else in this room, specialize in, and how can we work together, because we're all fighting the same problem. We're all dealing with the exact same issues of needing to bring people in that have a talent that can help us, make whatever product we're needing to make. One of the things that I've been really appreciative on with USC 259, the workforce, and WSU Tech, is the fact that there's this whole mentality still out there, the fact that manufacturing is dirty and grimy, and you're going to be coming home covered in soot, like all of these types of things, and that's not true. So how do we not only work with the students and bring them in on tours, but how do we also get in front of the parents? How do we also make sure that maybe there's videos or programs or something out there that the students can pull up and show one of our facilities or a facility like ours and say, this is really cool. I want to do this someday. And, oh, by the way, I come out of high school, I'm making whatever dollar amount an hour, and as a parent, I'm sitting there going, man, I wasn't doing that until I was like 30, whatever. But, what I'm saying, it's the fact that our world is changing and we have to get that message out in front of everyone we possibly can, and that's why partnering and collaborating with everyone is so important. So that's why we've been involved with the Youth Employment Project for the last 6-8 years. We make sure that if it's possible, we try to keep those students on after the summer as well. We'll work around their class schedules. We'll do different things, so then that way they're staying engaged. That way they're still having that conversation with some of their friends. And we've been able to have that happen for us where, maybe they were talking to their basketball buddies about the fact that this is kind of like a cool job that they have on the side and they're making really good money, and hey, maybe you should come too. And that has then helped us to bring in additional talent that traditionally we wouldn't have. One thing that we're currently working on is starting an apprenticeship program. Previous years, we were like, oh, we don't necessarily need to do that. That's a lot of paperwork. It's not a lot of paperwork, and it's one of those things that now that we're really looking at the apprenticeship program, we think, is going to significantly help us to recruit, not only in the state of Kansas, but outside. And so that's something that, again, we're working with the Workforce Alliance on to help recruit differently, see what we can do as an organization. On the DE&I side, we've always had a pretty diverse workforce, but we're getting more into translation programs. There's some programs that we can't be translated because of contracts and things like that, but there's other ones that we can. So what can we do utilizing technology and how much our world is changing to meet the needs of those diverse candidates that we have coming in that do speak a different language than us, that do think a little bit differently? How can we capitalize on that? So I really appreciate everyone's time. Just like everybody else, if you have questions for me after this, please don't hesitate.
Good afternoon. I'm Patty Kohler, president of JR Custom Metal Products. I agree with everything Cheryl is sharing here today, but most important for our company, it's about the biggest challenge that we're all facing with the workforce. We have many positions that are open today, and they're hard to fill. One of the most important ones for JR is welders. We need welders. So we have partnered with WSU Tech on training and internships. Our very first program was one of women in welding, the Metallica Scholar Program. This was a unique program due to the fact that the students' tuition and fees were all paid for. They needed to qualify, but the focus was to encourage women to pursue the opportunity of entering into the manufacturing industry. So we were lucky enough to have 4 female students start in the classroom, and basically they were being paid a stipend, $12 an hour, to learn how to weld. WSU Tech and JR shared on the expenses, and the students spent a half a day in the classroom and 3 hours in the plant. Now, you know where WSU Tech is, and we're clear west, so there was quite a drive. But they did this for actually 4.5 months of training. We would first start with having them shadow the manufacturing floor. So we started in receiving, and we went from receiving to whether it be laser cutting or shear cutting, so they could understand how all the parts are being made and what is the process throughout our plant to produce piece parts that are later going to show up in the weld center and how these things come together. So we were really successful with the program. We ended up with a second class, and that was an all-male class. Throughout the 3 years, we have so far had 4 different groups of students that have come under the workforce grants and internships. And one of the things that was important for us is to allow them a good understanding of what manufacturing was going to be like. I remember a couple days into the program, one of the gals said, "It is awful hot out here. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to handle this." We said, "Just give it some time, and you'll get used to it." And I kept thinking to myself, she's going to be under a hood. She's going to be welding. What is she thinking here? But she made it through the program, and she did very well, and all 4 of the ladies were hired on, and it was a big success. When it came to training, one of the things that we had purchased was a Vectus 360. It was a virtual welding simulator that allowed the students to learn the proper fundamentals of welding. And for example, some of the techniques were, the welding gun, how to hold it, the positioning of a work angle, the contact, the distance of your material versus gun, the speed, and all the positions of welding that were going to be needed. The one thing about the simulator is that the student was able to receive immediate visual feedback as far as what their weld technique was looking like. Most of them, if they utilize this tool, it really helps build what we call the muscle, building the muscle memory. Because when you get into the real welding, they're going to be able to understand, remember what I learned on the machine. Not only did we learn on the machine, but we had hands-on. And I guess one of the best trainers that we have is my brother George Martinez, many of you know him, who works one-on-one. He has such a passion for teaching, and he works one-on-one with the student. And they participate and they practice on welding, not only the coupons, but really sitting and receiving critiques on their welds. And then also, it also depends on the student and their abilities as we move them forward from, let's say, a very easy, small weldment to a more complex as they move on. If a student really has the passion for welding, they're going to be successful. And that's the focus that we've had, is we've started with welding. We need laser operators, we need brake operators. They're all difficult to find. And what we have found in our company that we've always had to train. We've always had to train our people. Some come very well prepared and some don't. And so we believe in helping our students. After the completion of the program, if it turns out we've been successful, we will offer a full-time position. And today we have 11 WSU Tech grads working for us. We have a total of 45 welders, and we have 4 robots working 24 hours, but we're working 20 hours around the clock. And if I could find another 10 immediately, they'd be hired on. So that's how desperate we are. It's very difficult to grow a business, and I'm sure you all share the same. That it's hard if you don't have the people. And so we're going to have to spend time and energy in helping our people grow. And it's been through the help of WSU Tech and the advisors here that have been very helpful in helping JR grow with new employees. We do serve on a number of advisory teams out here with the robots and welding and machining, and also starting with the coating and painting, which is very critical to us. I also serve out here on the WSU Industrial Advisory Board. And all I can say that leveraging the resources and working together is going to be the success of industry today. And it's been a win-win for our company.
So I think we have a couple minutes for questions, if there are any, unless you're just so excited to go on a tour. Any questions?
We've got several folks from the construction industry here, and you developed this program, and the others have as well, but could you speak to that and how you work with them to do that?
Yeah, so essentially what I talked about for manufacturing, if you're in a different industry, that all applies to you too. So flexible scheduling, the focus on applied learning, working with Shocker Career Accelerator. We do apprenticeships in construction, IT, if you're in the IT sector, hospitality and culinary. We're building that out to have options in applied learning. So really the concepts of what we're doing is not specific to manufacturing. We take those across the college and really apply those kind of, it's responsive to industry. I mean, that's what it is. Yes, it is manufacturing. That's why I'm sitting here on this panel, but the concept is across all sectors.
Well, I think one of the thing is the loyalty that they have, not only for the employer that has spent time helping them, but in today's environment, it's getting pretty testy out there. We just lost one of our top female welders to a large manufacturer here in town. She was making, and she's been with us 2 years. She was making, I believe, $20 an hour, and she was just hired on for $25 an hour, 3 weeks vacation, and she does not know how to weld aluminum, but she's going to learn. So they will have to teach her. So that's a challenge. Last year, we increased wages by 10%, and we're getting ready to do that again here in March. So, and these are costs that we have to pass on to our customers. And then when you're talking about freight, and you're talking about materials, and you're talking about shortages, it's very challenging. But for the most part, they're loyal and they'll stay with them. The interesting thing about the youth is they may stay with you 2 or 3 years, but they're always looking for the next dollar. So, you know, as an employer, we have to make sure that we stay up with wages and benefits.
I'm going to kind of tack onto that too, that's part of why we work so closely with the college and with the Workforce Alliance, is because we can kind of see what's happening and talk to them about what is experiencing in the market. We have really good retention when it comes to the students, but it's because of the fact that we put a lot of time and energy into working with them and educating them and mentorships and making sure that we have a very transparent process of how you move up in the organization. And that is one of the things that when we talk about the younger generations, that they want to be able to see that, you know, that whole idea of I don't want to be in the exact same job for 30 years like my dad was, you know, that type of thing. And so making sure that we're communicating, sometimes it feels like we're communicating a lot, but that's what we are finding personally that our students are looking for. And the younger generation as a whole is wanting to see that. So it's also, we're running into the same, I think everyone in this room is probably running into the same issue of wages, right? Like you get to a point where can you keep putting that wage out there and keep putting it out there? But then that's why we, a couple of years ago, went to looking at it of maybe we can't necessarily give that 10% increase to everybody, but what benefit can we do that will possibly be lucrative for keeping on this younger generation and continuing to build them? So we have a 6-week paid parental leave. So it doesn't matter, mom, dad, it works for adoption, it works for a number of different things, of knowing that something like 6 weeks paid off to stay at home with baby and you know, get adjusted to that new life is something that is really important to that new generation that's, you know, thinking about starting families. So what can we do? Another thing that we're doing is we're looking at our bereavement leave policy. We understand that the family nucleus is very different now than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So do we need to change as an organization what the definition of a parent is? What is the definition of a spouse? If, you know, forbid somebody has a death in the family. Like those are the types of things that we are finding are really important to the students and to others that are entering the organization. I don't know if that helps or not, but.
I'd add one more thing. My vantage point is a little bit different. Like I said, 27 pathways. So right before I walked into this, I was just working or in a meeting about the teaching field and diversity, inclusion, and equity, and how we increase that in the teaching world. Last Friday, it was healthcare. Wesley currently has 425 unfilled positions. So we're all fighting for the same high school kid, right? You know, the kid that's above a 2.0 and will show up to work and pass a drug test, right? Sign them up. But for your, you know, so what can you do as either a small group or a big group? You know, WMA is kind of the answer, right? They're your advocate. They're a conduit with education. Their job is to partner and promote manufacturing in the industry or in the region. And so part of what we all, you all need to do is, you're fighting with each other, or Spirit of Textron for workers, but you also need to increase the pool of kids wanting to go into this in general, and you're competing with all the other, computer science and healthcare and all the other industries in that regards. And WMA is a good partner for, promotion and scholarships and education and these kind of tours and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not a member, I'd encourage you to join. And if you are a member and you're on the fence next December, make sure you send the check. But, to be serious, it's a promotion of an industry more so than it is just about all the things Scott said too, but about making sure kids see building things is super cool, and building airplanes and parts and lawnmowers, it's super cool. Like, it's a great field and you can earn a good living doing it. Some kids just don't see themselves doing it. So anyway, yeah.
Kelly, to you, I think that what you just said is exactly that. Giving those kids a vision for where they can go from that pathway from high school to college to tech to wherever they're going to go. And then once they get there, they're able to see that is my career. It's not just a job right out of school. That's a career.
Yep.
My father-in-law was at Beechcraft for 48 years. I can't imagine being in the same place for 48 years. But this generation, my son's generation, they're looking for that next step. They're looking for that next $5. So that's really good that you got the pathway built.
Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Craig Dirksen.
Well, first of all, Craig Dirksen with the WMA board. Thank you for coming out today. Can we give our panelists a hand? I think we in the Wichita region are blessed to have such a great group of entities, companies that support our industries, and so I think it's kind of an unsung, they're the unsung heroes, I think, of the workforce and in a lot of areas working behind the scenes, so thank you guys. And also thank you to QuickPrint for sponsoring this tour as well, again. We're going to get to a tour here, but just real quick, I want to highlight a couple of upcoming events that we're having for WMA. So please put them on your calendars, and you can look at our website as well. It's wichitamanufacturers.org. On April 14, we're going to be touring Great Plains Industries, which is a longtime supporter of WMA. It should be a great tour. I think it's been, Gary, 7 or 8 years since we were out to see Great Plains, and 7 years, I think. And they're doing some really exciting things and be a great tour. And then on May 5th, so April 14th will be an afternoon tour, kind of the traditional time frame. Probably, we haven't set a time yet, but probably 2 or 3, somewhere in there. May 5th, I think, well, I know we are. We're going to be at BG Products in El Dorado to see their facilities, which are really cool as well. That'll be a morning tour. I don't know that we've done a morning tour maybe ever, but please put that on your calendars as well. That'll be a very good tour. We're working on potentially having a March tour. March was kind of difficult to fill, so there may be something, so more to come on that. If you have not been getting the WMA emails, please let us know. I think we need to probably work on our list a little bit, but please let us know if you're not. And also, we'd love to have you join, as several said. It's not an expensive membership. It's, I think, $150 for single, $500 for the silver corporate membership, and then $1,000 for the gold. So, and we are doing 9 to 10 events a year. So, great organization. We're trying to bring more content like we're sharing with you today. So, anyway, lastly, Dr. Lucas. Really want to thank WSU Tech and NCAT for hosting today. Great facilities. Really looking forward to seeing the tour, but we've got a Keeper of the Plains statue for you. Thank you.
Okay, tour. So we're going to do maybe 3 groups. So let's do this. So this section right here, you're going to go with Randy here. Time-wise, we're okay. We don't need safety glasses. Everything's pretty much shut down. We've caught the break between afternoon classes and evening classes, so So we're okay with safety glasses. So if you guys want to go with Randy, and if you guys want to just go meet in the commons area, if we want to take this and say maybe
Hey, just a reminder, after the tours, we're going to have a reception here in the lobby area with food and drink, so feel free to stay.
plenty of food. Sir. Yeah, that's fine. Is there,